you go right ahead.
But I'll begin with introductions. My name is Doug Slocum, otherwise known as Odie, the president of the Michigan Air and Space Forces Association, and on the national board, and I'll mention that here in just a second. But it is great to be here. We took a hiatus last month, and I'm going to show you why. But it's good to have everybody back, and we will keep up this venue of every second Friday of every month here for breakfast until the weather gets better on the other side. All right, so all winter long, we're going to stick with this rhythm of what we're doing and all. But there are a lot of faces relatively new. If this is your first time with us, will you do me a favor real quick and just raise your hand? Look at that. That's awesome. Tony, put your hands down, cuz you're here all the time. Anyway, we normally like to start off, I guess I should get my presentation remote wherever it is so that we can put up a picture. But we also have a big flag right there. And as per our normal tradition, Janina, would you come up and lead us in our national anthem? Would you please stand if you're able?
Thank you, Odie. As is my custom when I am asked to do the national anthem, I invite all of you to join in with me to sing it, because people usually never know if they should or not. So I like to share. I'll start it nice and low. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Play ball. That was really good this morning. Odie also asked me, I was going to ask him to make an announcement. As many of you know, I'm the president of the Metro Detroit Council of the Navy League, and as you also probably know, there's a lot of big birthdays being celebrated with the Marines and the Navy and all these services. Navy is 250 years old on Monday. And actually there's going to be if any of you are downtown, at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday in downtown Detroit by the City County building, there will be a special flag raising ceremony that will be in honor of the Navy. And Jim Semerad, where's Jim?
Right here in front.
Right here. Jim is going to be the guest speaker for that celebration. And actually, after that's over, Jim and I have to head over to Canada to board a Canadian Navy ship, the Margaret Brooke, that's coming into port today. Jim's got to leave to go do the welcoming. And we're going to do a day sail down to Leamington, so we get to do cool stuff like that with the Navy. But anyway, also on Thursday, October 16th, is the Navy Ball. We're celebrating our 250th birthday at Grosse Pointe Yacht Club, and we have enlisted coming, and all kinds of great stuff, and Brandon Minoff is going to be our guest speaker, former Navy SEAL, and we're doing that also as a fundraiser for the Medal of Honor Convention, which is going to be coming to Detroit next, well, about a year from now, early October. So we do have a few seats left. If anybody is interested in coming, if you are, please see me and we would be happy to have you. It's going to be a wonderful celebration. So thank you very much. Thanks, Odie.
Awesome. So enough talk about water. Let's talk about air and space. No, just kidding. But it's wonderful to always have our partners, and we work with other non-profits around here as the Michigan Defense Coalition. So that's always good when we cooperate. She mentioned Brandon Mineth. Man, it's been a couple years. We had him as a speaker, former Navy SEAL, great guy. I just remember one time he came in to do a presentation. It was an outdoor presentation, and he thought he'd be cool and parachute in to start it all off. And we watched Brandon kind of overshoot, go right into the middle of the lake. But just like a Navy SEAL, he crawled right back out and just kept going like it was nobody's business. But you don't always hit your target, I guess, when you're a SEAL. But anyway, as always, Mission Barbecue, if you haven't been here before, look around. You can see what the focus of this company is. They always treat us nice. They don't open till 11 o'clock. They do this for us. They open for breakfast. They serve the great breakfast. I told them they're really going to confuse people with this being up here with brisket and mac and cheese. They said you can come back at 11 if you really want that. But anyway, a big round of applause for all of the wonderful folks here at Mission Barbecue. And then our wonderful sponsors. You know, there's so much that we do that, you know, it takes resources. We don't push a lot, we don't ask a lot, but having the sponsors really helps us keep everything going here as an association. AEW, I think you're it today, aren't you, Steve? You're the pillar. Normally we have a whole slew of folks from AEW. Velocity, I know you're going to re-up. Rick, where'd you run off to? There you are, over there. But thanks in advance. I know the city called me, so I know there's a check coming in the mail. I think to city. Maybe they got caught up in the. No, that's all good. Let's see. American Air Operations. Where are you, Jim? There you are, sitting hiding back over there, Jim Santilli. Thank you so much for your support and all. Who else? Aero 92. You just upped again as a sponsor, so it's always tough. He's on the staff and he's a sponsor with his business, so double round of applause for him. So, don't think we have anybody. Ray signed up here from Belfour, but I don't see him here. Ray Ahonen, you didn't sneak in, did you? Okay. I think that covers everybody that's here. And then, of course, some of our partners that we have, including Mrs. and Mr. Lampard. I put it at least in the right order this time, right? Or Mrs. and Mr. Mary Lampard. Anyway, love you all. Appreciate you being here and everything, as always. Here we go. All right, so my team, I know we're smattered all over the place here. If you're part of our executive committee, would you raise your hand? Let everybody just, thank you. This is the team that makes a lot of stuff happen. And we haven't seen Josh in a while up here with a big mustache. He's the ROTC commander down at the University of Michigan. Okay, go blue. Go blue. You know, I have to say that now that I have a daughter that goes there, so sorry about that. I've always been agnostic towards schools, but I can't be anymore. And then, of course, we had a chance to meet Janina, Navy League, and of course the Lamparders is always taking care of us and being good partners with everything we do. All right, elected officials. I know Larry snuck in here in the back. Got Larry Rocca. Tony, the clerk, the massive clerk. Are you Macomb County? Are you clerking? Clerked, past tense? What conjugation of verb are we today? Clerking. Active tense. Okay, good.
Secretary of State.
Okay. No, we don't talk about people running for office. Not till you get elected, all right? Which is a good precursor, by the way, to let you know, just to let you know, this is a 501c3, nonpartisan, everything else. So when it comes to our wonderful governor up here talking with us, I will heavily facilitate anything. I mean, he's really good at managing it anyway. But this is not a partisan event and everything. He's here to talk about cyber and things that are good for Michigan, and we're going to keep that focus today as we go. Any other elected officials I missed in the room with us today? I think that was all I saw. Oh, Tom, there we go. All right, from our state rep. You're hiding quietly back over there, Tom. All right, and I already mentioned my team. But I mentioned last month that we didn't have a meeting. We had our national convention. We had the big Aerospace and Cyber Conference back in Washington, D.C. in National Harbor. But if you didn't get a chance to hear this news, and this was a big one to me, every year we had a Teacher of the Year for the state of Michigan, focused on STEM education. We go through a competition. We select a Teacher of the Year. This year's Teacher of the Year, we put up for National Teacher of the Year. She won. So, you bet. But that's just a picture of Ashley up on the stage for the awards night or whatever, getting that. But STEM Teacher of the Year for the country from Michigan. What a cool thing that is. First time that's ever happened, by the way. We always have these other states that win over and over again, so it's good to go, we won. But Ashley is absolutely wonderful. That was her giving her speech. The next day at the convention with the crowd out there, she was able to talk about what she does, why she does it, the work she's done overseas, the space, and everything else. I think my funnest whole experience with her and her friend Ashley, the teacher of the year from 2 years ago, is taking them out skydiving along with Tim and Ray and throwing them out of the airplane and letting them go fall through the sky with the Misty Blues all-women skydiving team. They had a blast. But I won't show you that video again. The other thing that happened back there that's kind of interesting, I have copies here, but there's pictures up there. I have this in front of it. 5 years in a row, we have won National Growth Awards here in Michigan for membership growth. We don't have an active duty Air or Space Force base in the state of Michigan. Last year we were the best organization nationwide, and then 5 years in a row we continue to grow membership at a great rate. So that's cool. That just tells you some of the return on investment of being a member of the AFA itself. I always love going back there. Any of you who follow me on Facebook, this individual I see every September. If you don't know his name by looking at his face, his name is Chuck DeBellevue. And if you want to go Google that, you will find out he is the leading ace, air-to-air kills and all that, since the Korean War. He got 6 kills in Vietnam as an F-4 backseater. So he is the leading ace, and he just hangs out with us. He is a member of the Oklahoma AFA and everything, and every year, because we both flew F-4 Phantoms, so we always talk F-4 talk and everything together and have a good time. But get to hang out with some pretty amazing people when we're back there. All right, just a couple news things to update you on. There's so much going on with our Air and Space Forces. The second B-21 prototype is flying. So there's 2 of them. This is the only picture I know that has both of them in there. But this is the bomber that's going to replace the B-2. It looks a lot like a B-2, but it's not. It's actually a little bit smaller, and we could get into all of the different things. It is an entirely new generation of capability when it comes to our new long-range stealth bomber. You'll notice the Air Force doesn't use that term. Stealth is a unique colloquial term, but it's going to be the long-range bomber. The first flight of the 2 prototypes, CCAs, which is known as the Collaborative Combat Aircraft. Think of this as like an advanced drone. So you're going to have a fighter that's going to go up, and these things are going to take off, and they're going to be little unmanned wingmen that go with that plane that's going to be controlled. So instead of just one airplane with one missile, there's going to be one pilot that has him and 5 other wingmen flying around out there. So the whole idea is it's going to be multiple shooters, multiple sensor platforms. It's going to be a way that we're going to be much more effective in the future with our forces, the next generation air defense and everything else. But that's the first prototype, and the second one is about to fly if it hasn't already. But no person in that thing. Then we have the F-47, used to be known as the NGAD, Next Generation Air Defense. This is going to be the follow-on plane to replace the F-22 and the F-15, our air dominance fighter that we're going to have in our forces. Like most everything, it's a lot classified. That's actually not even a picture. Big surprise. That's an artist rendition, and of course it's all foggy and everything. They don't want to give any secrets. They're going, look, we have a plane. You can't see much of it. But there is something out there. There's an acknowledged program, and it's well advanced on its way to having a flying prototype here in the near future. F-15EXs. Did anybody not hear the news that Selfridge is going to get new fighter jets? Okay, that's a good platform. And that was a great work from a lot of individuals to make that happen. The battle is not over. When the president announced this, I'm going to try and make this a very short version of the story, but he went around all the normal processes. He went around all the bureaucracy and said, we're going to buy additional planes and we're putting them in Selfridge. Well, guess what? All that bureaucracy just got irked. And when you listen to the Adjutant General talk now, this is where I'm taking this, I'm not making this up. Most of the program stuff now, you see, they're putting timelines on it of, the first plane will show up, we'll do all this the day that President Trump is out of office. So why do you think that that's why they put the date there? Because their intent is probably to not let this all happen the way that the president announced it. So there's a lot of pushback, a lot of infighting and everything that's going on. Yes, Selfridge is going to get KC-46 tankers and F-15EXs. right now. Is that going to be the executed plan in the long run? The Pentagon and the Guard Bureau are irked that the president basically went around them to make this happen. So it's an ongoing fight, just so that you all know it's not a done deal. And as I said right off the bat, we were supposed to get an oversized squadron of tankers. Instead of 8, we were going to get 12. And when they made the F-15 announcement, the first thing I said is, ooh, they're coming after 4 of those tankers. They want to make it just like every other tanker squadron in the country, 8. TAG even said it. There's a decision letter out there that they won't show him that says just that. Selfridge is going to get reduced from 12 to 8 tankers on the future mission going forward. So there's a lot going on at Selfridge. The other thing that the Adjutant General said out loud, so I don't have a problem saying it, I haven't seen a press release, but he introduced us to the new wing commander at Selfridge. She was our speaker in June. Leah Volker, who was in here, is the new commander out there at Selfridge. So keep your eye on the news. That should be hopefully announced here in the near future. But I think Brancato is already back in Washington, D.C. at this point. But Leah Volker is the new commander out there at Selfridge. They've been very busy, a lot going on at Michigan's hometown air base. All right, a couple things I always love to throw out a little history here as we're making the introductions. Before I make our speaker introductions, anybody know what that is? That picture from the mid-1940s. It's where we launched the Enola Gay to do the nuclear delivery against Japan, all right? The Tinian Islands. Marianas, Tinian Island of the Marianas in the Pacific. Those are all different bombers. You had hundreds and hundreds of the B-29 bombers and all would fly out of this island. And of course, since then, it's all just kind of overgrown. There's nothing there anymore. Until recently. All of a sudden, we've decided we need more bases in the Pacific as part of this being able to spread our forces out so there are more targets the Chinese have to hit. This is actually, I'm cheating a little bit. This is a little bit further down on the island. They're building to Tinian, it's actually called Tinian West, or Tinian International Airport. We're building on there so that we can station aircraft there if we need to. But also up there in the north, doing a little bit of runway work so we can put airplanes back onto that airfield that we used in World War II with all the B-29 bombers. So this is a new base. We're not going to be permanently stationed in anything there, but it'll be a forward operating location for our forces in the Pacific. I just find it fascinating when you know the history that it's kind of coming full circle back to life again. Last thing I have, just as an update, they announced a new Chief of Staff of the Air Force nominee, General Wilsbach. I think I'm saying that properly. And if you look in the news, there's the confirmation discussions and everything going on about him right now as our new Chief of Staff. And as I always say, if you don't know this, and I'd be glad to explain it, our Air Force today, since 1947, we are the oldest, we are the smallest, we are the least ready Air Force that we have been since we were founded in 1947. And I can explain any of those pillars, but this is why we exist. We are the voice of the Air Force. They wear the uniform. They're part of the executive branch of government. We can say what they can't. And that's why we have the Mitchell Institute, the big think tank and everything that can help us articulate this clearly with gravitas. And the last, of course, is our primary adversary now and in the future is China. They are the biggest, they are the newest, and they are the most ready that they've ever been. And these trends are continuing in the direction. China is getting better on all three. We continue to get worse on all three. All right, so we have a guest speaker today, and I want to talk about him for just a minute. All right, this is my introduction to my former commander-in-chief. If you don't know why I'm saying that, the National Guard works for the governor. I worked basically when I was a commander at Selfridge, despite being a federal employee, that was my commander-in-chief. But let me tell you a little bit about when I met him for the first time. It was a little bit different and all. I showed up in early November. I don't think you were at the change of command, sir, when we did that, when I first showed up. But that first cycle, we sent tankers overseas, we deployed our A-10s to the Middle East. They had a wonderful, when they all came back, this is about 10 months into my tenure, I decided, let's have a big welcome home party. And we literally set up a big hangar with about 1,200 seats, a stage, a sound system. I had a video made, people came in, I mean, music was rocking. We had all sorts of stuff. I get up on stage, we have all of our elected officials, our commander-in-chief sitting in front. I get up on stage, I go, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And I said, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I got down off the stage and I'd hidden a selfie stick under the stairs. So I took a selfie stick and I went over to all our elected officials and I pulled out the selfie stick and said, come on, let's take a picture. So I put the camera up there and everything. I turn around. Right when I look up at the picture, and he's going to remember this, you'll see a big smile on his face. And I looked at it, the governor, and I said, "How do you take the picture?" The former COO of Gateway Computers goes, "There's a little button on the back right here, Odie. You hit this." I was like, "Oh, thanks, Governor. Appreciate that a lot." So I had to have the governor show me how to take a selfie. All right, and then actually made a news story in the Macomb Daily about me taking a selfie. So that was us. But I also had a lot of wonderful time. The governor talks about relentless positive action, RPA. And if y'all know me, even the title of the book I wrote, Violent Positivity, so we kind of argue about who used the word positive first. I said, but I was a fighter pilot, so we were, used violence in a way of extending diplomacy. That's what we did. So I am allowed to be violently positive. But relentless positive action, I only say that because in my tenure, in the time that I get to know the governor, you live that creed. I've never heard him say a bad thing about another person, ever, even behind closed doors or anything else. He really does live that mantra, which is very unusual for a person to be able to do that, and very much respect you for that, sir. But this was us in Latvia. The governor had flown all the way over to Latvia, and I think you'd been awake for 30 some hours when you showed up there. And I even tried to prod him a little bit. I said, "You're kind of tired, right?" Well, being a good executive, you don't ever admit stuff like that. Everything's good, and he just kept pressing, and we did our whole agenda running around there in Latvia. That was the ambassador, I think, that was walking with us out there at Lillavarde airfield. So one of my favorite times, Northern Strike, big exercise up north. Well, the Guard has 3 little cabins on the lake right there. I can't even remember the name of the lake. Marguerite. Right on the shore there of Lake Marguerite. Everybody left. It was all quiet. I went down. I'd rented one of those cabins for a week. Family hasn't shown up yet. I go down there, not a light on, nothing going on. Sun setting over the lake. It's beautiful. I walk into this cabin. I walk on the back porch just looking at there. I look over at the cabin next to me. That guy sitting on that porch looks over at me. I go, "Hi, Governor." He goes, "Hi, Odie." He goes, "You want to come over and have some wine?" It's like, sure. And I can remember sitting there, and he had his big book, because every day he would study. His staff would put together information, and he's diligent about studying, preparing, being ready for the next day. And this is all my way of saying how much respect I have for my former commander-in-chief, our former governor. Let's please welcome Governor Rick Snyder.
Well, good morning. It's great to be with you. Actually, it's an honor to be here, and I want to start not only thanking Odie, but thanking all of you for either your service in one of our services, or many of you you're the family member of a service member. Thank you for all that you've given and still continuing to give to our country. It's wonderful to be in this place, the Michigan Barbecue. I'd never been here before. I love this place. So it's wonderful to see. So it's a special opportunity to come back, and I appreciate Odie sharing some stories. I was so proud of Odie and the group at Selfridge. And one thing I won't forget that should be reminded to everyone, when I was governor, it was the top-ranked unit in the entire Air Force, as I recall.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
be proud of that. Give that a round of applause. Not that we trash-talked other units and other places around, but we were number 1. So we'll take that. It was well-deserved and well-earned. So it was a special honor to be commander-in-chief, particularly for a nerd, if you think about it. You got a guy that's legally blind without my contacts and flat-footed, so I was not qualified to be in anything, so I did my best to be a good commander-in-chief, and it was an honor. One of the things I was going to throw out to you, though, is I finished my 8 years. It was an honor to serve as your governor. It was a special opportunity in my life to give back. But one of the things, have you ever thought about it? What do you do with an old governor? Right?
Let him run again.
So one of the questions I had is, what do you do next? And I still wanted to help people and to give back. And if you think about what are the great threats in the world today, and I'm not talking about countries or other things, but what issues are threats that are pervasive across the world that if you go ask organizations or risk managers to list what are the greatest things to worry about, one of the top 3 will be cybersecurity. It will show up on almost every list. What's going to happen in that world of the cloud, because it can really change our lives. And so I felt that was one way I could give back. was, let's start a company in cybersecurity in an area where people aren't being helped. And who wasn't being helped? There's a wonderful cybersecurity industry out there. There are companies that are multi-billion market cap companies, public companies, they're doing all this. And who do they serve? They serve enterprises. They serve large organizations. They serve the Fords, the GMs, the big companies. They serve companies that have high-tech people in them. They have chief information security officers. They can afford those kind of resources, and they can take really complicated tools and do things to protect themselves. Well, that's great. We need people like that. We need organizations like that. But who helps the small businesses? The company of 50 people, 100 people, 200 people. Not just the businesses, the nonprofits, the governmental units. Who's there to help them? And so there aren't many people out there doing that work. So we created SensCy, which is short for Sensible Cyber, to service the unserved, to help make people safer. And that's compelling to me. That was exciting. And it is exciting. We make people safer in this cyber world. But what do I mean when I talk about the cyber world? Because quite often, it's funny, in our company, I'm identified as the anti-acronym police. We could use that in the military too, probably. The people that speak in plain language, that don't use just acronyms when you talk to people. Because if you think about it, if you had a cyber expert come up and talk to you, you'd go, they're from Mars. I didn't understand a lot of what they said because they're using this jargon and all this kind of stuff. It's important that to get people to understand, to want to be better at cyber, that you talk to them in terms everybody understands, plain language. And so we work really hard on that when we communicate with people. And how do I describe cyber to people? Because it is scary. The technology piece, all this kind of stuff, the threats. What I tell people is, consider cyber like being a diabetic. We all know about diabetes, right? I bet we have diabetics in this room right now. What's the key to being successful living your life as a diabetic? It's a chronic condition. It's never going to go away. You're never going to be cured, right? But you can live a good life. And how do you live a good life as a diabetic? Well, it's well defined. You may or may not be on insulin, and it's diet and exercise. Those three variables. If you do those three things, you can live a good life. Even though there's a chronic condition that's never going to be cured. That's the same thing that cybersecurity is. It is not going to go away. You're never going to be safe, but you can be safer. And how can you be safer? By doing equivalents of insulin, diet, and exercise in your own life or in your own organization. So it's something you can't ignore, you shouldn't ignore. Many people just try to ignore cybersecurity. That's the worst answer, because you're asking for it. But I also tell people it's part of, like the diabetic thing, you don't think about being a diabetic every moment of your life. You're living your life, but it's always there. It's on your list of priorities. I tell people the same thing on cyber. I say cyber shouldn't be the number one thing on your mind or in your life, unless you're in a cybersecurity company. The only time it'll be number one in your life is if you get hacked. It will consume your life during that period. But otherwise, it's got to be something you don't ignore, but it's an active part of your culture. It's part of your life. It's sort of like, you remember about taking care of your cell phone, you get up in the morning, you got your habits of what you're going to do. You need to do the same thing with your cyber hygiene. It's like taking your shower in the morning, doing your deodorant, shaving, all that exciting stuff. There are certain things in the cyber world you should be thinking about all the time, but they're not things you dwell on because they're sort of ingrained in your mindset. So I'm going to walk through some of those things that should be part of your cyber hygiene. How's that? Let me give you some examples, and as I go, I sort of ask you to keep in mind, think about personally. Listen to what I say. I hope you're going to listen. But listen in the context of saying, do I do this or don't I do this? And if I don't do this, shouldn't I be doing it? And shouldn't I learn more how to do these things? Because I'm going to give you a lot of the basics. And then I'm happy to take questions on cyber or other things. Anything you want to ask, I'm happy to take. That's fun too for me. About the old days, about the garden, or all the different things we did, or any of that kind of stuff. But let me talk about cyber first. What are some of the basic hygiene things you should be doing? Okay, first of all, passwords. Complex passwords. It's interesting that in a lot of cases, people may still have passwords. Anybody here reuse passwords? Use the same password for more than one application? Raise your hand, fess up. That's one of the single worst things you can do in the world. And why is that? Because if someone hacks you or your password gets out on one application, say some retailer gets hacked and they get the passwords and they see your email and they see your password, you know what they do then? Is they go to you and say, I'm going to try this password on all the other accounts that I think you may have. So you've given the keys to the kingdom by reusing a password. So I've just depressed a lot of people to say, oh my God, I do this 15 times. Now I got to go change 15 passwords. Go change 15 passwords. One of the questions you get though about having complex passwords, and those are those passwords that are alphanumeric, lowercase, uppercase, you've all seen those, but longer is better. But you don't have to be crazy. I have my own kind of algorithm, my formulas for coming up with passwords, but try to get 10 characters, 12 characters. But one of the things you can do, if you have too many of these or if it's too much for you, it costs a few dollars, but it's well worth it as a password keeper. You go get one of these applications where you keep all your passwords there. You just have to remember one password. God knows, don't forget that one password. You're in real trouble then. But they'll come up with passwords for all these other applications. It's well worth the investment. So I really encourage you, if you're overwhelmed by complex passwords, use a password keeper. That's one of the best things. The other one is in some cases you forget that you even have a password on some devices. Your Wi-Fi at home. How many of you set up your Wi-Fi at home? Okay, how many left the same name on the Wi-Fi that came with the Wi-Fi device? So it says Netgear, or it says somebody like that. A lot of you probably kept the same name. That's not the best thing to do. The other thing that's not the best thing to do is like put your address or put who you are. Put something random in there that means something to you. But did you change the password on your Wi-Fi?
So calling it Tom's house wasn't good.
So the password on your Wi-Fi is most likely admin or 12345. And you think the bad guys could figure that out. So go check out your Wi-Fi and make sure you have a real password on it. It's not a huge risk, but there is a risk that people could be around you that will be looking for that can use that against you. One of the other fun ones though is how many travel and go on to Wi-Fi when you're in a hotel, at the airport. Anybody go out and do Wi-Fi in places other than your home or your business? Yeah, you do. And that's normal. That's not a bad thing in its own right. How many of you actually use a virtual private network when you do that? Oh, that's good. We got some hands going up. The only time you should be on a remote Wi-Fi network is if you're using a virtual private network. Now, if you don't know what that is, again, that's another piece of software that may cost you a few dollars a month, but it's a good investment. And what it is it builds like a special tunnel just for you, a private tunnel through that public Wi-Fi, and it's protected then. So it gives you privacy, because the very worst places is airports and casinos. If you go on the Wi-Fi in one of those two places, you're asking for it. The classic was, to show you how scary the cyber world is or how far we have to evolve, about 3 years ago I gave a talk at Firekeepers Casino to a big group of CPAs. So these CPAs are the people doing your taxes and your books. So I asked them, how many of you are on the Wi-Fi? Again, in Firekeepers Casino, 90% of the hands go up. I said, how many of you are on virtual private networks? 5% of the hands went up. So these are the people keeping your books and records. I know that's changed in the last 3 years, but it gives you an idea about how people do need to be educated about cybersecurity. Because the very worst place of all, think about it, they know where the money is. Why wouldn't they be? The bad guys are in the casinos. Because let me stop for a minute and talk about the bad guys. They are really bad people. No doubt about it. And quite often they're in parts of the world where we can't go arrest them, we can't find them, we can't get them. So these really bad people are out there. And the worst of it is they are really smart people. They're very smart. And they know to try new ideas, they're very creative. I mean, these are people you'd love to have being the entrepreneurs in your country, building wonderful, good companies. But they're doing bad things. So never underestimate them. So we always have to keep that in mind. So as you go through that virtual private network is one of the cool things you can do. Now, I was just on the radio before I came in. It was nice. I was on a radio show in Lansing, and they said, give me a hint, because this is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I don't know if Odie knew that when he asked me to come this month. Yeah, see?
What about after the fact? No, I planned this a year ago, sir.
So I gave him one that most people wouldn't think of, because people talk about 2 or 3 I've talked about. Do you have auto updates on your devices? All your devices will usually ask, do you have auto updates on or not? Everyone should have auto updates on anything you can get. And then even if you have auto updates on, don't believe it. Don't assume it's auto updated all the time. How many of you, we all get those requests, right? It comes up and says, do you want to do this update tonight? Or do you want to do it later? And some of you may go, I never want to do this. Don't ever do that. You want to update as quickly as reasonably possible. If it says you want to do it tonight, absolutely. And then tomorrow morning, I go and check to say, did it actually update? Because sometimes it will ask you that, but if you didn't have it plugged in the right way, or if you didn't have enough battery life, or you didn't have your left leg up in the air, it didn't update, to make sure it did update. Because why is that so important? Why is that so critical? So usually when you get an update like that, particularly if it says it's a security update, those faster ones that aren't a big deal to put up, they're security updates. That's because there's a known vulnerability. There's a 0-day event. You've heard that term 0-day, you may wonder what that is. 0 days are when they actually go out and publish to say, there is some hole we know about, and we're warning you that there's a hole. And hopefully they have a solution to that hole when they come out and give you the warning. And that's when that update's usually going to come out, is very quickly with that 0-day announcement or with that event. And so you want to do it, because what happens is a lot of people don't do their updates. And I'm not just talking individually. In companies, we ask, how fast do you do your patches? In a company context, we'll say, how fast do you do your patches? And a lot of companies, they'll do Patch Tuesday or Patch Wednesday to make sure they've done all their patches at least within a week. There are people out there that don't do patches for months. They are likely to get hacked. Because what do the bad guys do? They just go around and look for people that haven't done the patch. You've left a big hole. The hole's been announced. The bad guys know about the hole. They know how to get through the hole. They know what to do in the hole. And they got you. So updates don't sound exciting, but they're well worth doing. So that's a great one. Two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. You'll see it 2FA or MFA. It's kind of like AFA, this great association, but there's MFA. How many have heard of MFA as a term? See, I don't use acronyms, but it's multi-factor authentication, which is, you should have that turned on every time you can. And you should check all your applications to say, can I turn on multi-factor, or sometimes called two-factor authentication? And that's that famous one to say, send me a text before you let me in. Or do an authenticator. There is a technological way to do it, but most people still do the text or an email. Send this text or email to me before you let me in. That's a great level of security. That's what you really want to have always engaged, if you can. I know it sounds like a hassle, but it's not that big a hassle. If you do the text one, I have Apple devices, it actually auto-populates. It pops up as a text message and you just hit, okay, verify, and you're in. Now let me talk about a couple other things that are out there. Phishing. Not the F kind of phishing, the PH kind of phishing. Which are all these emails you get that are trying to suck you into clicking on something, right? What you need to do there is build in a time delay. And when you get an email that doesn't look quite right, or you wonder why I got this email, or if it has an offer that's too good to be true, or it says it's urgent, all these different things, or offers you something, don't click on it until you've investigated it. And what's the easiest way to check to see if you have a phishing email? That email address that's up in the top, take your cursor and go up on it and have it show you the address behind what it really says there. And if it isn't the right address, and when I say the right address, make sure it is the right address, because a lot of times they'll change one letter, they'll add an extra space, they'll do something to deceive you to make it look like the right address. If it's not the right address, it's a phishing email, which is a really bad thing, and you want to get rid of that. So going to hover is one of the best things. If you have any doubts, be doubtful, be skeptical. If it says, you need to go check your account, click here to get there. Don't click there to go there. If it says you got a problem with that account, go to your web browser and bring up that account separately, and go to your account and see if there's a message in your account saying you need to do something. Or check the issue they talked about. But don't go through their email, because by clicking that email, they'll get you. You independently verify, or you just simply call up the people. If it's from somebody you know that you wonder, why did I get this email? It looks fishy. Get it? Fishy? Call them and say, did you send me this email? So this is the thing about that time delay and this cultural thing. So there isn't a set rule, but it's building that delay, that extra thing that just says, I'm adding this sixth sense to my world, to my life, to say, it's not just quite right, and I'm not going to go there. And the problem is they're getting better and better. Again, remember how I told you how smart they are. So in the old days, it was easy to spot. Remember all the misspelled words or the poor English, and it was like, I'm not going to click on that. You know what they do now is they go to Chat GPT, they go to artificial intelligence, and it writes a wonderful email for them. And they may even know your name. So it'll be specific to you. So now you got to be even more careful when you're looking for these things. So like I said, sort of be skeptical about every email you get and thoughtful about it to say, do I need to click on something, or is there a better way, or should I just get rid of this, or how can I verify it in some other fashion? That's not going to change. That's going to keep up. The other part is not just email anymore. If you get a text message, how many people have been asked to buy gift cards for somebody? My staff, the people that work for me at SensCy, they get email or text messages all the time saying, I've asked them from me, saying I've asked them to go buy gift cards. It's a running joke in our company. They expect them once a month. The new one, though, is if you get a voicemail now. A voicemail can be fake now. If they have a sample of someone's voice. So if you get a voicemail from Odie saying, please go buy gift cards for the association and send them to this address, don't do it. Because they've got a voice clip of his that they've now made into a whole scheme. And the worst part is, they've just announced that ChatGPT and some of these companies are now doing video things, so you can do videos. So videos will be able to be faked. And the worst part is they're taking advantage primarily of seniors. So this is the case where if they can get a clip of a son, a granddaughter, a younger person's voice in their family, they can have a whole pitch now where they can have that voice of that child or grandchild, call them, sound like them, and ask them for money. and ask them to send money because they're in trouble. So what do you do if you get a call like that? You listen to it. I mean, you're scared to death. You write down the stuff, but you just don't do it. You call somebody else in the family that knows and say, where is this person? How are they? Are they okay? You, again, do some independent verification before you do anything like that. Because most likely, odds are it's a scam. So you can see now where I'm talking about, that you have to have good cyber hygiene to protect yourselves from these things. I wish I could just say, you know, there's a great solution, one answer to do this, but there's not. So the interesting part is we tell people this in our company when we talk to people, because a lot of people think there's a techie answer to this. There isn't. About 90% of the hacks, successful hacks, involve a human still. So the main thing to make yourself safe is you. And I encourage you to work with your family members. We actually, for the companies we serve, we do cyber awareness training. And some of you may have it in your companies, where you get these email once a month to do those trainings and different things like that. Do them. And actually what we encourage people to do is take whatever they learn in those trainings and go talk to their family members and help them. Because one of the coolest things is, we're really proud. We've had it where employees would come back and say, we avoided a hack in our family because of something in one of these lessons. Not to click on that email, to look out for this or that. So these scams are only going to become worse and worse. Almost everyone, you'll see these every week, if not every day. Someone will be trying to get you. And again, this is depressing sounding. But again, if you do these basic things that I'm talking about, you can live a good life. Look, I'm still smiling. I'm a big target, right? God knows, are there any video clips out there of me or my voice? I always joke, when people wanted to know if I was coming, it was first my hair, and then secondly, if I said anything, they could spot my voice. I always said I had a face for radio and a voice for newspapers. So these are the kind of things that can key you off to say there are things you need to do. The good part is, too, is we're using that technology now. Artificial intelligence is a big issue, but now the good guys, we actually have tools in our company, and all these organizations are doing tools in artificial intelligence. But let me spend a couple minutes talking about a couple of AI things, because I think that is important in your life. So if you're using artificial intelligence, and I encourage you to do so, you can get free ChatGPT. I use it every day. And why do I do it every day? I don't do it for work necessarily. I just want to make sure I know where the world's going. So I want to practice, getting used to doing this. Regardless of your age, just go do it. It's not going to hurt you. You'll learn some things by using it. So the main thing is, if you're using it personally, just remember, if you put any information, it'll say, ask me anything. So you can write in your question, type in your question, try and get information. Anything you type in there belongs to the cloud then. So number one rule is never put important personal or proprietary information into one of those artificial intelligence engines unless it's a closed loop system through some organization you're in. But if you're just using the general tools, never do that. And why do I say never do that? Because whatever you put in there is likely to end up in some 7th grader's term paper. It will show up somewhere. And that's the classic case in a lot of companies. Early adopters, people that were trying to do things, or students, they put in personal information or information you don't want to share. Or companies would put in like blueprint information or ask engineering questions. And that would be out there, and it's like, you didn't need the Chinese to come hack you, you just gave them the information. So be careful about what you put in there. The other one is don't believe everything it tells you. They have a great term. They don't tell you it's wrong. They say it had a hallucination. So what is AI? All it does is, it's a massive thing that's looking for pattern recognition and information for you. It's so much faster than Google searches or any of that kind of thing. It's worth using. But you got to remember what you get back. may not be right. And the funny part is try this sometime. I've had arguments with ChatGPT. It would come give me an answer and I said, I don't like that answer. I don't think you're right. And it would come back, well, you make a point here. Let me go look at this some more. And you can have a dialogue. But part of the way I'm having fun laughing about it is because I use it every day. Now, I'll give you the one context. Now, don't get me in trouble by calling Sue, my wife. But so the new one is I use the typed version a lot. But I have another one, Perplexity, that I use that has a good voice version. So you can talk to it. So I started talking to it, and then Sue chimed in, my wife. She'd hear me because we'd ask questions. So the new thing at home now is if she and I have a disagreement about did something happen or the facts of something, it's like now I have to hold up Perplexity and I have to ask Perplexity so she can hear me asking the question and she can hear the answer. So now Perplexity is the arbitrator of disputes in our family in terms of going through that process. And again, she's always right. So even if it answers my way, I go, honey, that was a hallucination, and you're always right. So I'm still getting Perplexity to get down the two most important words in the world are yes, dear. And just to go that way. But this is the way our world's going. So I sort of wanted to end with that. And there's a lot more I could go through, but I've given you a pretty good list of things. Think about all those things I talked about and ask yourself the question, how many of them do I do? How many of them don't I do? And how can I start doing those things that I mentioned that you're not doing? I encourage you to do those. If you do those things, you're going to be dramatically safer than where you are today. But also think about how I talked about it. You can see I'm not scared of this. I'm very concerned though, but I'm not going to let it ruin my life. I'm a key target, but I'm going to live my life. But I'm going to do the insulin, diet, and exercise to be safer. And can I be safe? No. When people ask me that, no one is safe. That is not possible. The National Security Agency is not safe. It's safer. So it's a continual process. It's that chronic disease that you're not going to be cured of, but you can live a good life. So I've tried to take you through the cycle of really getting you depressed, scared to death, and then bring you back to let you know the world will be okay if you do these things. So just like you wake up in the morning and you take that shower, you do that shave, you do the deodorant, not shave for everyone, but you go through that process and say, if I do these things, hey, I'm set for the day. Think about that. Every time you get an email, a communication, something else, you build in that lag to sort of say, is this really right? Is this what I should be doing? Have I done those updates? Have I done these things? You know, just as part of your normal daily routine. You'll be okay. So let me stop there and see what kind of questions you have on cyber or other stuff. I see hands went up quick. Yes?
So my newest scam is when I get the stuff on my calendar that Bitcoin and PayPal. First of all, I don't do Bitcoin and I don't use PayPal. So I know it's not real, but I've been struggling trying to figure out how to, because I have an Android phone, how to get them to not put things on my calendar.
Yeah, the calendar one's the new one.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you bringing that up. So they'll directly try to send something to your calendar. You just ignore it.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like how I know there's ways to not accept those, but I can't figure it out on Android. So that's my latest struggle, figuring it out.
Yeah,
delete them.
Delete them. Just delete them. Don't, because you'll get a lot of those. The other one that I will warn you about that is also going on, that individuals, I got one yesterday, DocuSign. So one of the new schemes is, particularly if you bought a home or done something where there's a public record that you've done something, is they'll send you a DocuSign saying, congratulations on closing on your house. That's wonderful, the closing went great, but we forgot to ask you to sign this one last form. And it's fake, because they were able to look in the public records to say you had a closing, and they know to say, you thought it went well, everyone was happy and walked away, but then they make it sound like, hey, we forgot one form, can you just fill this out?
gotten, there's emails to your email, hey, check this out this photo, hi Janina, do this. Well, I know it's wrong, but what I do for an email is I will always start it with like a personal message from me so people will know it's me and not a fake email. My question is, are they getting so good that they can scour your emails and look at that and see what your process is so they can copy that when they send emails?
Yeah, they could. I think you're probably good for a while, but be careful about that longer term. And always be skeptical, or tell people to be skeptical on those kind of things. The other one that's kind of interesting is they'll now have artificial intelligence try to interact with you and con you into something. They'll have a whole dialogue with you. And so one of the fun things to mess up AI in particular is to throw it a curveball question to find out if it's human or artificial. So the curveball question you do right now is, God, it's great to see the Lions playing tonight in that baseball game. And again, any human's going to go, what are you talking about? Where AI will go, yeah, that's exciting. So let me give you one illustration though to show you how bad it's got for the big companies. Over half the Fortune 500 companies have a North Korean on their IT staff now, or have had in the last 2 or 3 years. Yes, I did say that right. Over half the Fortune 500 companies likely have had a North Korean on their IT staff in the last 12 to 24 months. How did they do that? They applied for a remote IT position, which is really common because it's so hard to get IT people and we're still in the remote world. So they used artificial intelligence to give them a different face, a different look, and a different voice. They do the interviews, online interviews, with that different face and voice. And again, remember I told you they're really smart. So they know all the right answers to the IT questions they can interact with. So they get hired. They get someone in the US to front for them with an address. So their new employer sends the laptop to this address. They send them the computer, the company does. They send them the passwords and say, here, now you can work on us as IT people. So one thing I tell any company now is do not ever hire anyone remote where you've not had a physical, one-on-one, real look them in the eye, real person interaction. Do not let it happen only remote. Because you can fake a person well enough now where you may hire them if you've never met them. Sorry, I'm taking you a little late, so I don't want to...
No, we're doing good. I was actually going to give just one input because I don't think you were ever aware of what happened. But when I was at Selfridge, when I was the commander there, and this is a very short version of the story, but somebody impersonated me online on dating websites and ended up swindling $8.7 million off of women off of dating websites. And they would Skype with my face, my voice, my name, all the information about it and everything else. My wife is making faces because one of the first interactions they said something about, it was right out of my bio. The second was, after my wife died, comma, and I did everything under the sun, wonderful, beautiful, and everything else. When I told her that, she was like, oh, sorry to hear I died. I said, well, apparently that was necessary in this. But, I mean, this is 10 years ago. They were Skyping as me to people and convincing them was good.
Scary stuff. Yeah, no, it's an awful thing. Seniors are among the worst, or anyone that's alone, that's looking for emotional attachment would be the other category I'd put high on the list because they want a friend. And these people will, play along. And so what's really important is to have family members or friends that are engaging with them, asking them, and waiting to see if they bring something up. To say, hey, I met a new friend online. I have an 87-year-old sister. And so I have this in my life. If she said to me, I've met a new friend online, I wouldn't think good, I would think warning bell first. That would be, the alarm going off. And then ask more questions or say, have you done this or done that, or can I do this with you to find out, are they a real person? Same thing on the scams about if they ask for money. Anytime it involves money or critical information, you should be worried. If it involves a senior or somebody vulnerable, and again, that's the thing to say. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It could be legit, but you shouldn't assume it's legit until you've done additional due diligence. That's the level of standard you need nowadays, because these are happening so often. It's awful.
My dad, after my mom passed away, my dad was almost completely computer illiterate, but he had to learn to do stuff. So I was very skeptical of the company at first, but he bought this special computer for old people with like a big keyboard. And it actually, they would send it to you, they would do the updates, and you could not download any external software to it. So even if you clicked one of those links, it could not download the virus or whatever. It was it was a self-contained system. And I learned more about it, and I was like, we're paying for this every month? But in the end, it was perfect, because he couldn't fall for any of that stuff.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things. A couple I will add on to that. How many people, USB drives, those little thumb drive things, don't use them, don't do them, unless they're yours that you know what's on them. But if someone gives you one, you should assume it's got bad stuff on it. The classic case is we actually did this at the state. One of our guys there, he took some thumb drives and left them in the parking lot, on the ground, to see who was going to take them and go put them in their computer at the state. And people did. And it was interesting. They then got a notice to say, why did you do this? The other one to look out for, and I don't mean to terrify you, but you have to be careful, QR codes. So QR codes you can use if you're confident of the source it's published in, but never do a stickered QR code. If it's a sticker or something like that, stay away from it. One of the smartest scams, and again, you gotta respect these people. They did this down south in a couple cities, parking meters. So they went and stickered all the parking meter, the places that you can do the metering, with their own QR codes. So everybody that went through to pay for parking actually was sending the money and their credit card information to the bad guys, because it was a sticker over the top versus saying you can see it's the hard original copy. Yes?
When people do click on a link, what should they do? Should they report it? Should they shut the computer down? What are the requirements? You make a mistake.
Yeah, you want to disconnect from the web as quick as you can. So disconnect and get help. It's not always good to just try to erase it and get rid of it, because you may get rid of the record that people can track back, but get off the web so they can't get into it anymore or to get what you need. And go to a different device if it was on a particular application, and change your password as fast as you can on whatever application they were working on. No, that's a great question. Yeah, come on.
What is the difference between the regular web and the dark web?
Yeah, the regular web and the dark web. That's a great question. So the web we live in is the regular web. The dark web is the place where you can't get from the regular web. You have to know the special addresses, and that's where the bad guys go. And it is like going to the dark world. I mean, they're hidden places, they're hidden pockets. Just think about video games where they'd have the special offline places you could go. Same kind of thing. And so the dark web, for example, we do scanning. I'll give you the real case. So we do scanning, outside vulnerability scanning on all our clients. And it's like a drive-by. We're looking down, it's like pretending to drive down their street. We're looking for the open windows and doors. You can do that on the regular web. But we also look on the dark web, the pieces we can get to see do we find information on our clients. Because that's a warning they've been hacked, that they may not even know they've been hacked. So there are tools you can go on the dark web to look for stuff, but you can't look everywhere because there's hidden places we can't even get to. So one of the things we did at the state, you'll find this kind of entertaining, is I would have the IT people at the state of Michigan do dark web searches for the state, but also on me, to see, did they find stuff, to say, did they hack me, because again, I had access to a lot of stuff. And the good part is, we never found stuff where they got in anything important. They'd have some documents, but the places we could get to. But that doesn't mean we got everywhere. It is scary stuff. Tony?
So while you're speaking, thank you, Governor, this is really interesting. While you're speaking, I asked ChatGPT, what is a good VPN? And it said, ask Governor Snyder. Do you have any suggestions?
On VPNs?
Yeah.
A good one, actually, I'll give you one named Nord. N-O-R-D. Yeah, that's it. There's a whole bunch of them, though. Some of them are built into other applications, like Aura does your credit and a whole bunch of stuff. A-U-R-A does much more than VPNs, but they include one. But Nord is a common VPN. Yeah, we have somebody speaking up there. No, yes.
We're talking about like the QR cards. A lot of times when people are doing now, they're at a business function and they'll have one of those on a business card.
Yeah.
They get it as a phone. By the time they're home, the money's gone.
Yeah. Well, to be open with you though, I have a QR code on my business card. It's legit if it's the real card. So, no, QR codes aren't going to go away. They're common. I mean, if you think about it, I love the restaurants now where you got the QR code there and you don't have to wait for the check and all this. You can just click and pay. It's more if it's stickered or it doesn't look right or it's been replaced. Be careful. So the other thing on phishing that I should mention too that I didn't is the biggest time you're going to get those messages that are most likely to be the worst ones are the times you're going to be most rushed or hurried. So if you think about when phishing emails are going to come or voicemails or something, they're going to come Friday at 4 o'clock at your workplace saying you want to do this because you're trying to go out the door, or right before the holidays. Holidays are great times for them to try to get you because you're trying to rush out. So again, remember how I told you got to build in that time lag, you build that skepticism. They're trying to get you in an emotional state where you're hurried, you're rushing, you're trying to say, well, I got to do this right away. So this is the famous one. You get the email from your boss or your boss's boss saying, hey, you got to change that wire instruction or you got to ship something to this address right now. Don't go home until you get this done. Those are all warning signals to say you're getting scammed. So the first thing you do then, in that case, is I would call up the person that sent it to me saying, is this for real?
Have you heard anything about a voicemail scam? So my daughter got a voicemail yesterday from Bank of America. I mean, she sent me the transcript.
Yeah.
We bank at Bank of America. It was from Merrill Lynch. I had done something for her at Merrill Lynch that morning at Bank of America. And all they gave her was a phone number. There's no way, like if I call that number, so I called my contact at Merrill Lynch at Bank of America and say, hey, we got this voicemail from somebody else. Is this something I have to do? But I was like, there's nothing like with a phone number yet.
Yeah, so give her a round of applause. She did the right, good job. No, give her a round. She's actually, so one of the things you got to be really wary of is when it says call this number or something like that, don't call that number. They actually have phone banks.
Okay.
The bad guys do. They actually want you to call to say, hey, you're skeptical, but if the phone number or the place they tell you to go is in the same document,
Right.
there's no way it's legit. So they actually have phone banks with people ready to answer from that organization.
Right. I mean,
That's how good they are. Yeah, that's what I mean. These are scary people.
Last question, Governor.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit more of a PSA for everyone. I'm the CIO for Freestar Financial Credit Union, and myself and many other credit unions, especially here in other financial institutions, banks too. We're seeing a huge uptick right now of people calling members and other customers of banks that's posing our actual phone number. Okay, you can fake a phone number very easy. Okay, you can spoof it. And what they're doing is they're calling and they're actually saying, this is the fraud department. We've seen some, fraudulent charges, and they're asking for your username and password for your online banking. Never give your username and password over the phone. Then what they're doing is, because once the person gives that information, then they're saying, oh, I just sent you a code. Well, that's them logging in on their device with your username and password, and it's the MFA code that's being sent to you. I need that code. Can you verify that code, and then they have full access. So we're seeing, like I said, I'm part of this group of other, FIs in Macomb County, and we're seeing a huge uptick right now. So please share this information with anyone and everyone. If you get a call from saying that it's the fraud department, hang up and call the number that you need.
So welcome to this world. But again, this is scary stuff. Don't panic. And the worst thing you can do is don't ignore it. Just start incorporating this in your life and taking it on and making it part of your everyday existence. And it's annoying. You wish you didn't have to do it. It's an extra burden on you. But just like you get up in the morning and you go through your routine to be safe, this is cyber hygiene. This is just, it's going on all the time to say we have to be on top of it and be ready.
One more question there, Gov.
You got one hand right there.
One of the things that you briefly touched on that's really important is to make sure that this information is also getting out to not only our kids, but our grandkids, because gaming is a huge, those are computers as well. So when they are in those gaming spheres, they are also vulnerable to these types of methods. And there's other, AI is now being supplanted, or the evolution of that is synthetic intelligence. I just read a whole article on synthetic intelligence that's changing the dynamic of the AI component.
Yeah, no, you have to be aware of all these things. So I'll give one last, just like Odie did the Air Force and the Chinese Air Force, I'll tell you something you should be proud of that we tried to do in Michigan with respect to the National Guard. And I don't know if Odie knew all this. So this goes back to about 2012 or 13. I went to National Guard Bureau and went to Washington and stuff like that and said, we want to encourage you to start a new subset of the Air and Army Guard or start a new branch of the National Guard. And we think it should be this cyber soldier. That there should be a new branch of the National Guard because we're not prepared for a massive cyber strike on the United States. If we got hit, there are not enough qualified people to respond. And I said the best model is we're never going to have them in an active force. We could never afford that, it wouldn't work. So the best answer is I love the National Guard. It's the citizen soldier. So can't we get people that are IT people and train them and organize them so they could respond if we had a crisis? And it should be just like that. I said the issue is you guys are used to people being in good shape, but you got nerds like me. You actually have to start a branch where you'd allow nerds in. But you could do this Citizen Cyber Corps. And they didn't like the idea because it didn't, again, it was innovative. So we did it in Michigan. We actually have a civilian cyber corps in Michigan. We've got 100 and some members to it. It's been going on for well over a decade. It's the first in the nation to do that. And they're still going. And we actually passed some laws where they could be called up to help on major cyber incidences and help. They wouldn't have to worry about the legal liability questions. They'd still be responsible, but they could be called up and deployed. So we did it in the state of Michigan. And now over the last 5 or 6 years, there's a bill about every year or two coming up that some congressional person is proposing now to create a third branch of the National Guard for cyber. Because again, if you think about it, the physical war is clearly a threat, and it's why we have that. But the cyber world, isn't it just as likely, and look at the damage that could be done in the cyber world. And shouldn't we have a branch that's actually in the cyber world? The cool part is we still pushed them, and so they sort of placated us by saying we're the only state that got an Air Force and then an Army cyber unit in the state of Michigan. So that was their compromise, but someday we should have a cyber branch of the National Guard, in my view. So that was my last commercial for you. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Nerds are dangerous. Well, Governor, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it a ton. I'm sure somehow in your tenure you got copies of these before, but now you got another one. You got
I did.
Big Dan Bullet. with the AFA on the side of it. Another thing to put on your desk there, sir. So thank you very much. And I'm sure you'll have some time to hang around if anybody has anything as we go forward. But this is what we do. We have the big aerospace and cyber conference. So yes, we're talking about that domain also. But Governor, I appreciate it. Everybody got something out of it. And I got my camera guy going, get out in front of the window. But every second Friday, breakfast here. If you're not on the mailing list and would like to be, please let me know. Give me your email address, or I can give you my business card up here. Plug in with any of the team wearing the shirts and all around here. But I'm going to give you the rest of your time back. If you have any other questions for the governor, please fire away. But that being said, I hope this was a good start to your Friday. Air, space, and cyber power, go. Have a good rest of your Friday.